This is my Stormbreaker, handmade out of cardboard. In the next 10 seconds, I'll give you a sneak peek into how I made it. First, I cut and assembled some pieces of cardboard. After that, I made the surface of the cardboard hard and smooth. I painted the axe head chrome, then made it look dirty with oil paints. I used a bunch of sticks to create the handle and added a variety of colors and textures to make it look like real wood. And there. That's the 10-second summary of how I made this. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know, you're wondering how the heck this axe is so detailed. So hang tight because there's so much more I want to show you in this video. Like, how did I make all those tiny little circles look so perfect? If you're new here, welcome. I'm Sean. I don't really post that often, but when I do, I try to make sure it's worth your time. So subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. To start, I created a paper template of the axe head. This would not have been possible without this incredible 3D model made by Henry 3D Creations. Using some spray adhesive, I transferred the paper template to some cardboard. The black pieces were glued onto some large sheets of Bristol board, while the yellow pieces were glued onto some 3mm non-corrugated cardboard. See these broken lines? Those represent where to fold the cardboard. The longer dashed lines represent mountain folds, while the shorter dotted lines represent valley folds. I scored all the fold lines with a knife to get nice crisp folds. The secret to making those tiny little circles is leather hole punchers. These easily allow me to cut out a perfect circle every time. I'll leave a link below in case you want to buy some. Now these pieces here were so skinny that they broke as soon as I tried to punch a hole through them. So I started over, but this time I punched out the holes before cutting out the template. After cutting out all those holes, I scored and folded a scrap piece of Bristol board and glued that behind the holes. Then I scored and folded another scrap piece of Bristol board and used a slightly smaller hole puncher than before to cut out these tiny circles, which were then glued inside of the bigger circles that I made first. To make the lettering, I used a very sharp knife and carefully cut out the letters one by one. I covered the back of the letters and then reattached any parts of the letters that got disconnected. Taking a look at the axe again, we can see that there are lots of these lines engraved on there, so for that I pressed down hard with a 0.7mm ballpoint pen in order to leave an impression in the cardboard. Now it's time to assemble. The axe head is split into 8 different sections. I'll set this first section aside and then start on the next section. I glued all the seams together using super glue as it's very strong and it dries very quickly. If you want to make your own Stormbreaker, feel free to download my template for free using the link in the description. If you're going to do that, make sure you follow the instructions on how to print the template properly in order to accommodate whatever paper size you're using. Fear not, towards the end of the video there will be a tutorial on how to print the template properly. Sometimes the pieces don't fit together perfectly, as you can see here, but with a little bit of super glue mixed with baking soda, I can easily fill in the gaps, and there we go. I'll set this aside and now we'll move on to the next section. This piece in particular has some very tiny tabs to fold, but it's the little details like this that add up to make a big difference in the end. Hey, did you know that if you just snap your fingers, the pieces just automatically connect to each other? Give it a try and let me know how it goes. Alright, let's set this section aside and start on the next section. At this point, I started getting a lot more excited as I could start to see it coming to life a lot more. One of the most challenging parts of this build was gluing on these super thin, tiny strands of cardboard here. These pieces are so small and I definitely considered omitting this tiny detail, but because Stormbreaker is one of my favorite MCU props, I couldn't help myself. I felt like I had to do it justice. If you're one of those people who can't snap their fingers, alternatively you can just wave the cardboard around like this and oh, look at that, it just connects by itself. Once again, this axe head is divided into 8 different sections. So now we've got 5 sections down, 3 more to go. Whenever I try to build something very detailed, there is usually 1 or 2 parts of the build that seriously make me contemplate what I'm doing with my life. Like this! These runes were insanely tedious. It's moments like these that make me, have a love-hate relationship with crafting. But was it worth it? No. Finally, we have all 8 pieces done and ready to be hardened. To harden the cardboard, I'm going to use fiberglass cloth and tabletop epoxy resin. When using epoxy resin, it's important to mix part A and B very thoroughly, or else you could end up with tacky spots that don't cure all the way, which would really suck. I stop mixing once I see that the liquid has a uniform opacity and reaches the consistency of honey. Wait, no, not that honey. This honey. This video is brought to you by PayPal Honey. Have you ever heard the old saying, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is? Well, that's exactly what you'll be thinking after I tell you that Honey is a browser extension that automatically searches the internet for coupon codes when you're shopping online. The best part is that Honey is completely free to use. So why not start saving money on things you're already buying, on sites you're already shopping on? Sounds too good to be true. So What's the catch? Well, actually, there's no catch. Seriously, just watch how simple it is. Just click here and here to add Honey to your browser and start shopping like normal. Then, Honey will automatically tell you when it finds a deal for you. It's that effortless. With over 100,000 5-star Google reviews, Honey is the #1 shopping tool in America. That's why I've been using Honey for years before they ever wanted to sponsor me. So what are you waiting for? Join the 17 million plus people who use Honey by going to joinhoney.com/Sean'sCrafts, or just click the first link in the description. Thank you, Honey, for supporting my channel. So where were we? Oh, right. I reinforced the inside of the cardboard with fiberglass cloth and epoxy resin. The combination of the two make the cardboard very rigid and solid, almost like a hard plastic. After the resin cured, I connected all 8 sections together, and look at that. It's beautiful. When coating the outside in resin, I make sure not to let the resin pool up too much in one area because I don't want to accidentally cover up all those details I worked so hard on. Next, I used a little bit of epoxy sculpt to fill in this gap here and make it look like one flush piece. At some point, I realized I messed up on one of the letters, but thankfully I was able to fix that with the epoxy sculpt. Everything was sanded with 120 grit sandpaper, and I also redefined the engraved lines to get rid of any resin that pooled up in there. Time for paint, my favorite part. I used a 2K high build primer to fill in any unwanted imperfections on the surface. If you don't know what this stuff is, it's basically just a really thick paint that covers any small scratches and gaps, making the surface look more smooth. I sanded with 320 grit and once again, cleaned out those engraved lines to make sure they're nice and sharp. This step right here is very important because the chrome metallic paint that I'm using must be sprayed over top of a shiny black surface in order for the chrome paint to actually look like chrome. After the primer dried, I suddenly remembered, oh yeah, I need to make the handle. So that's when I glued a broken hockey stick inside the axe head using some 5-minute epoxy. Like I just mentioned, the chrome paint must go over top of a shiny black surface or else it won't look like chrome. So this is a 2K gloss clear coat that I'm spraying here to make the surface as reflective as possible. The chrome paint I'm using is called Allumaluster. It's a very, very shiny paint that makes any glossy black surface amazingly look like metal. Alright, it's time now for weathering, so I watered down some brown and black water mixable oil paints and applied that selectively all over the axe head to make it appear worn and dirty. And afterwards, I darkened the engravings with a really fine 0.05 fine liner. Once I was satisfied with the way everything looked, I used more of that 2K gloss clear coat. The next thing we have to do is make those wooden vines. I'm going to begin by rolling up some EVA craft foam to make these long noodles, and then I'll use a Dremel with a sanding drum to give it a more random and organic shape. This is Warbler. If you're not familiar with Warbler, it's a type of plastic that becomes malleable when it's heated with a heat gun. When the material is hot, it can be sculpted into pretty much any shape, and once it cools down, it becomes hard again. I wrapped all the foam in Warbler, added a texture to the Warbler, then reheated and wrapped those around the axe head one by one. I continued all the way down the shaft of the hockey stick, adding more strands of Warbler, then heating it up, shaping it, blending it, and adding texture to it. After I was done shaping the handle, I painted it with a brown acrylic paint. It's nice that the Warbler is already kind of tan. I actually think it looks better not to cover the Warbler completely, but let some of that tan show through. Painting those wooden vines was very tedious, but also rewarding because I could start to see it all coming together. I went ahead and thinned down some black acrylic paint with some windshield washer fluid, and then airbrushed mostly in the crevices to bring out that depth. I also darkened the wooden vines a little bit and afterwards used a bit of sandpaper to scuff the paint off some of the high spots and let some of that tan colored Warbler show through. Finally, all that was left to do was coat the handle with a matte 2-component clear coat. Before I show you the final result, I have some good news. It's giveaway time. As a way of saying thank you for your support, I'm giving away a free lightsaber. That's right, the winner of this giveaway will win a free lightsaber from artsabers.com. If you've never heard of Artsabers before, they make some of the most beautiful lightsabers I've ever seen. Here are just a few of their lightsabers. If you win this giveaway, you'll have the option of choosing between Anakin's Episode 3 saber, Obi-Wan's Episode 3 saber, Obi-Wan's Episode 1 saber, Qui-Gon's saber, Yoda's saber, Or if none of these hilts interest you, just choose any lightsaber you want from their website and it'll be sent to you for free. I'm not being paid to promote Art Sabers or anything, but full disclosure, they are funding this giveaway and they did provide all the lightsabers you see here. So thank you, Art Sabers. So how do you enter this giveaway? Well, this giveaway is being hosted on my Instagram page. So to enter this giveaway, simply comment on this post right here. This post will be pinned on my Instagram page and I'll leave a link to that pinned post in the description below. The winner will be announced on my Instagram page. So good luck, and now back to the video.
Closer, closer, I'ma get closer to you. Yeah, got me, baby, got me hooked on you once again. Girl, I need you. How many times do I want you? 'Cause we could be so complete. Baby, I'll never want anyone new. I was on the bed and you undressed, baby, when I pulled you in.
As promised, I'm now going to show you how to properly print out the template. So first, you need to download Adobe Acrobat Reader. There's a link in the description to where to download this. It's free and only takes like 2 minutes. After you've downloaded the template, you'll notice that there's 8 files. Template number 1, template number 2, and so on. Right-click on template number 1, then open with Adobe Acrobat Reader. Click the printer icon, select the poster format, then set the overlap to 0. Also make sure the tile scale is set to 100%. After that, you want to specify what type of paper you're using. For me, it's US letter, so I click OK, and now it's ready to print. Just repeat those same steps for all the other files, number 1 to 8. Actually, you might be able to print template number 8 without using Adobe Acrobat Reader, but for all the other files, 1 to 7, you must print them out using the poster format in Adobe Reader, like I just showed you. If you enjoyed this video, then you might like my previous video as well, which was a Thor hammer, so click the screen here to check out that video. Thank you very much to my patrons for supporting me on Patreon, and thank you for watching.